Hey everybody, Phil Zito here, and welcome to tonight's live stream, Smart Buildings Academy TV episode 10. And in this episode, we're going to be going through damper sizing and actuator sizing. So my name is Phil Zito, founder and CEO of Smart Buildings Academy, where we help companies and individuals learn how to perform building automation tasks through our training courses, podcasts, live streams like this. All right, so what we're going to be diving into today is kind of continuing on from where we were looking at valve sizing and valve actuator sizing in the previous TV episode. Now we're going to be looking at damper sizing and actuator selection. Now, damper sizing is actually not terribly difficult. If you think about a damper, we're going to be talking about rectangular dampers, not round dampers. But if you think about a rectangular damper in your actual air handler, it probably looks something like this, right? Something like a rectangle, and it's going to have width and length. So we'll just put those there. Whether you have width or length doesn't really matter, the dimensions for our calculation that we're going to be doing here. So what we're going to be doing first is we need to get our square feet. So our square feet area. And to do that, you times width times length. And then you divide that by 144, which is 12 times 12 inches times 12 inches. So we get the width and length in inches. And then we divide it by 144 to give us our foot square area, our square footage. Once we have that, then we simply multiply that times either 7, 8, or 9, and I'll tell you what those are in just a second. But just to back up, so actuators, and you'll have to forgive me, I'm just dealing with some dry eyes due to humidity issues. But what dampers actually do is they regulate the flow of air. They can actually block off the flow of air, or they can regulate the flow of air. Dampers that are going to block off the flow of air, those are going to be things like smoke and fire dampers and open shut dampers. Now, for most of us, we're going to be using control dampers, and we are going to be using gasketed control dampers. So gasketed control dampers are going to be dampers that have gaskets on the edge of the blades. It provides a better air seal. Now, the thing is, when we have that better air seal, we're going to need a stronger torque capacity to close that damper. So for non-gasketed, right? For non-gasketed, I'm going to bring this over just a little bit so you can see it. For non-gasketed dampers, we are going to use 7 foot-pounds. For gasketed dampers, we are going to use 8 foot-pounds. And for smoke and fire dampers, we're going to use 9 foot-pounds. So our equation, quite simply, is the width of the damper times the length of the damper divided by 144. That's going to give us square footage, right? And then that square footage is going to be multiplied times a factor of 7, 8, or 9, and that's going to give us the foot-pounds that we're going to need when we select an actuator. Now I'm going to clear this off real quick, and we're going to talk about a couple more concepts. So real quickly, when we are doing this, let me just move that kind of right here, move it over just a little bit more. Okay, so when we're doing this with our actuators, we are going to have, if I do like a side profile of an actuator, we're either going to have parallel damper blades or we are going to have opposed damper blades, something like that. Now, what kind of damper blades you have is going to depend on the application and what kind of sealing you're going for. When I say sealing, I mean the tightness of airflow constriction. But so just realize that. Now, once we've selected the type, whether it's parallel or it's opposed, then we are going to select whether we are going to have gasketed or non-gasketed. Typically, we're going to have gasketed, but not always. And then once we've selected that, then we just measure the distance, the square foot rather, the width and the length. So width and length. We times that together to get our area. We divide that by 144, which once again is 12 times 12, 12 inches times 12 inches. That's going to give us square footage because our width and length are going to be typically in inches. Once we have that, then if we're using gasketed, as I mentioned, we multiply times 8. If we're not using gasketed, we multiply times 7. Once we've done that, then it's a matter of just going to Belimo and picking the appropriate actuator. So I would just go here, Belimo, products, actuators. Let's just say that we're just going to go with a non-fail-safe actuator. Typically, non-fail-safe are going to be things like, hey, it's not going to fail into a position, and that's okay. Fail-safe is something that you'll have on other types of systems where you need that fail-safe capability. We're going to look at torque. So let's just say we came up with a 90 inch-pound, right? And so we do that. And once we've got that right there, then we're able to go and obviously we would have to convert our foot-pounds to inch-pounds because they're doing inch-pounds instead of foot-pounds. But once we've converted to inch-pounds for them, then it's a matter of saying, okay, what are we using? We're almost always using AC. Sometimes we'll be using 24 volts. Other times we'll be using 120 volts. You'll notice as we shift here and we get towards the higher inch-pounds here, you're going to notice that we increasingly move towards higher voltage. So then we're going to go to control type. Typically, we are going to have either on-off or modulating. So modulating is going to give us a bunch of different types. Floating 3-point control, that's more of our incremental control. But it's pretty simple once we've done that calculation to pick out our damper actuator. It's pretty straightforward as to what we need to do, what we need to select. If we need an aux switch for status, we can do that as well. Although I typically prefer to get a separate end switch. You can use the end switch on the actuator. I like to have them decoupled, but that's just me. So to recap real quickly on this fairly short, fairly straightforward video, pick the actuator type. Once we've picked that type, we go and whether it's gasketed or not, measure the width and length, divide it by 144. If we're going for foot-pounds, if we're going for inch-pounds, then we can do that accordingly as well. Times it by 7 or 8, and we're good to go. All right, and then that's it. That's how you size actuators, and then you go to wherever you're sizing your actuators, and you size them up. Now, as I mentioned, with Belimo, it's in inch-pounds, so you would do it that way. If you have any questions, though, feel free to ask. Pretty simple. I don't know why people make this much more complex than it has to be, but there's only, 4 things that you need to pay attention to. All right, and I'll answer any questions you got. Give you a couple minutes to ask questions, whatever you want to ask, and then we'll go from there. Hey, thanks for being here, all of you. Appreciate it. And I realized that this one was scheduled for 8 a.m. instead of 8 p.m. again. I must have messed up when I rescheduled everything. So just moving forward, all Mondays are at 8 p.m. All Wednesday live TVs are at 8 a.m. Yeah. Perfect. Not seeing any questions. I'll give you all about 30 seconds or so to ask some questions. Otherwise, I'll call it a night because I'm kind of tired. It's been a long day. Had a lot of stuff to get done today. So, first working week of the year. All right, cool. First working week of the year. All right, cool. All right. Well, then you all, thanks for being here. Remember that this is every Monday at 8 p.m. and every Wednesday at 8 a.m. You all, thanks for being here. In the comments, definitely let us know what you would like us to cover on future episodes. We can cover pretty much anything as long as it's got to do with smart buildings. So let us know and be sure to ask any questions in the comments. That way we can go and answer them for you. Thanks a ton. Take care.